Simultaneous, linear, and quadratic. When you see two equations and you're solving them simultaneously, so you're solving for x and y at the same time, and one of them has squareds in and the other one doesn't, that means you've got a particular type of question which comes up pretty much every year. It's usually one of the last 2 or 3 questions in one of the papers. And there's a standard approach every time. You take the linear equation. The first one is the linear one because it's the one which doesn't have the x squareds in. The second one is the quadratic. And you substitute a value for either x or y from the linear equation into the quadratic. So we're going to take either x or y and stick it into here. Now, in this case, I would say y is the easier one to work with because it's just 1y and x is there is 2x. It doesn't really matter, but it just means that if you work with x, you're going to have to deal with some fractions. If we rearrange the first one, if 2x plus y equals 6, then we can see y equals 6 minus 2x. So we're now going to stick that into the second equation. So the second equation becomes x squared. It starts off as being x squared plus y squared equals 20. We're now going to shove in y as being 6 minus 2x. So we get x squared plus 6 minus 2x squared equals 20. Now you expand the brackets. 6 minus 2x squared gives you, well, let's do this the long way. 6 minus 2x times 6 minus 2x. And you can use whichever method you want, FOIL or whatever. You get x squared plus 36 minus 12x minus another 12x. And then minus 2x times minus 2x makes plus 4x squared. We can bring these terms together, and that gives us x squared plus 36 minus 24x plus 4x squared equals 20. And then we can bring the x squared terms together. So the left-hand side now simplifies to 5x squared. I'll put the x term first. 5x squared minus 24x. Sorry. Plus 36 equals 20. If we subtract 20 from both sides, you can now see that we have a quadratic to solve. In the standard way. Obviously, the previous line is still a quadratic you can solve, but once you've got it equal to 0, we can apply the formula. You can look for factors if you want. This probably is factorizable, but we'll go for the formula anyway for simplicity. So that's x equals minus b, which is 24, plus or minus the square root of b squared, 576, minus 4ac. AC is 16 times 5, which is 80, so that's 320, all over 2a. Which gives us 24 plus or minus the square root of 256 over 10, which is equal to 24 plus or minus 16 over 10, which means that x is either 4 or 0.8. Now, one common mistake is that people think they're done once they've found x. But of course you're not. You're finding x and y. So to work out what y is, we now need to go back to this equation here. If x is 4, y is going to be 6 minus 2 lots of 4, which is minus 2. And if x is 0.8, it's going to be 6 minus 2 lots of 0.8, which is 4.4. Now, there's a danger here. If you write x and y separately, you will lose, I think, 2 marks. It's usually a question that's out of 7, sometimes 6. I think you only get 5 out of 7 or 4 out of 6 if you just write the answers like this. The important thing to know is that the answers come in pairs. When x is 4, y is minus 2. So these two answers go together. And when x is 0.8, y is 4.4. So these two answers go together. You need to make it clear that that's the case. A simple way of doing that would just be to write them like this. X equals 4, y equals minus 2, or x equals 0.8, y equals 4.4. That puts the values that correspond with each other together. So I would actually not bother writing that line there. Once you've done that, you've got all the marks. It's a method that you apply to every question of this type, and it always gets to the right answer.